everyone, it's Danielle, Southeast Farm Bill wildlife biologist. As I've been driving around the last few days, I just noticed that a lot of our woody invasives are starting to really stick out like a sore thumb as the leaves of all the other plants start to fall. So I thought I'd just do a little video on how to identify woody invasives and why they're a problem for wildlife out in our natural areas. When I say woody invasives, I mean something like this. So shrubby plants. This is autumn olive, and the other one I'm going to talk about is bush honeysuckle. So I'll give you guys a little bit closer look at those here in a minute. So here we have a good example of bush honeysuckle. You can ID it in a couple of ways. One is that the leaves are opposite. So if we look here, the two leaves are coming out from the same point on the stem rather than coming out one at a time along the stem. This individual is really easy to ID because it happens to have berries. So you can see these really bright red berries. They're easy to see even from a distance, and they sort of grow in these little clusters along the leaf axes. The leaves are simple and they have very smooth margins, so you don't see any teeth coming out here, no real waviness. And one thing I always notice is just that the leaves are really bright green. So generally they stand out really well even when it's not fall and other things have gone dormant. Here we have a closer look at some autumn olive, and you can see right off the bat it looks quite a bit different than the bush honeysuckle. For one thing, it has these really dark green leaves, and the color of autumn olive is pretty distinctive from a distance. It almost looks sort of a silvery color, especially when the leaves turn over. If the wind's blowing, you can really see these pale bottom sides, so it's fairly recognizable in those conditions. When you look closely, it has alternate leaves, so this is a good example. Earlier we saw bush honeysuckle, which has opposite leaves. This has alternate, meaning it's just one leaf coming out along the stem at each point. Autumn olive does have berries, this individual doesn't. However, they're just not quite as vibrant as the ones on bush honeysuckle. Simple leaf, kind of like bush honeysuckle, though these have a wavy margin. So if I turn the leaf sideways, you can really see that the leaf sort of goes up and down in that wavy pattern rather than the sort of flat leaves that bush honeysuckle and some other shrubs have. Once you sort of get an eye for it, you'll start to recognize autumn olive and bush honeysuckle by their growth form. So if you look under here, we have a lot of multiple stems coming out from the one plant, and it sort of arches over the ground into this almost vase shape. This is one of the big problems with these species because that shape allows them to shade out the area around them. So other plants like spring ephemerals that open early in the spring can't actually get the light reaching the forest floor because these plants leaf out really early. They have this structure that allows them to shade the ground out, and it sort of chokes out other native plants. And they're generally just good at outcompeting plants. So you'll often see really thick stands of them where nothing else seems to be surviving. Another issue with this structure is that birds will nest in them, but they don't actually provide very good cover. They're really pretty open, predators can see right through them, so a lot of nests end up just getting depredated and don't succeed for that year. Bush honeysuckle is particularly good at outcompeting other plants because it's allelopathic. That basically means that this plant actually exudes chemicals from its roots that can inhibit the growth of other plants, including a lot of our valuable trees. So fall is a really good time to see if you have these species on your property. If you look around, that most of the big trees have lost their leaves. Our native species are starting to go really yellow if they aren't already leafless. But as we look down toward the understory, we can see that most of these plants are still green. They might be looking a little bit faded, but generally they are the last things to turn brown in the fall. So if you want to go out and either do some control or just start figuring out what you're dealing with, now's a really good time to go take a walk in your woods or around your property and just see what you have going on.
Thanks for watching. For more information on habitat creation and management, contact your local Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever Farm Bill wildlife biologist. You can find your biologist by going to pheasantsforever.org, scrolling to the bottom of the page, and clicking on the Find a Biologist link. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/INPFQF.